Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the bi-monthly Southwest Drought Briefing. This is a 30-minute update on drought conditions and research. I'm Jacqueline Lessie, Communications Coordinator for the USDA Southwest Climate Hub. These monthly briefings emerged in 2020. There was a drought in the Southwest, and members from the Monitoring and Impact Reporting team of the Southwest Drought Learning Network created these briefings. The Drought Learning Network links climate service providers with resource managers and resource managers with one another to increase landscape and community resilience in current and future drought. I want to take a moment to thank my colleague, Rihanna Burnett. Rihanna is the Educational Resources Coordinator for the Southwest Climate Hub. Rihanna will be moderating the questions at the end of this briefing. Speaking of, please use the questions feature at any time during these talks. And following this briefing, a recording will be available on our website, which will be provided in the chat. Today, we will hear from two presenters. Brian Fuchs will present our current drought conditions and outlook. He is one of the producers of the U.S. Drought Monitor, and he is a climatologist with the National Drought Mitigation Center. Following Brian's presentation, we will hear from Tanya Hay about the Managing Drought Risk on the Ranch website, which provides drought monitoring, planning, and management resources for rangeland managers in the Great Plains and Western U.S. Tanya is a research assistant professor and social science coordinator for the National Drought Mitigation Center. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brian for the drought conditions outlook and update.
All right, thanks, Jackie, and welcome everyone this afternoon, and thank you for spending a little time with us today. So, as mentioned, my name is Brian Fuchs. I'm one of the U.S. Drought Monitor authors, and I'm also with the National Drought Mitigation Center here at the University of Nebraska. And just going to do a quick overview today of what the current conditions are looking like in the region and maybe what we can expect going forward. So here we are with the current U.S. Drought Monitor map for the entire United States. And what we can see is quite a bit of the region in the Southwest is one of the areas of the country that is seeing the most intense drought right now. And what we're seeing recently has been an intensification of this drought, especially in portions of Arizona and New Mexico. But also just in the last couple of weeks, we have had some precipitation come through these areas, and some localized improvements were actually made. As we zoom into the region and look at the West as a whole, I have some numbers circled up in the chart to the right. And what we're seeing is, currently we have about 50% of this region in drought of some level, D1 through D4 on the map. A year ago, we were just over 21% of the same region in drought. So what we can easily say is in the last year, we've definitely seen drought not only expand, but also intensify. And with the intensification a year ago, we had just over 1.5% of this region in extreme or exceptional drought. And currently we're at a little over 15.5% of this region in extreme and exceptional drought. And what we can tell by the map is definitely the areas in the Four Corners, and especially along the U.S. and Mexico border, have been some of the areas that have seen drought not only expand but intensify the most over the last several months. And we also know that some of our areas further to the north, even though conditions may only be severe drought or moderate drought, they still have some challenges existing because overall the snowpack through the winter months was not as favorable as what we typically would have liked to have seen. And it's also going to start impacting what we see for runoff, storage into reservoirs, and then just water availability later on this summer. And we really zoom into just the Southwest. We'll go through some of those numbers again. So a year ago, this region shown was a little over 19% in drought compared to almost 64.5% in drought right now. A year ago, we had 2.35% of this region in extreme or exceptional drought. That's jumped all the way up to a little over 25% of this area in drought. And last year at this time, we weren't seeing hardly any D4 exceptional drought. And right now we have about 2% of this area is in exceptional drought. And you can see from last week's numbers that actually has improved because we did eliminate some of that in portions of southwest Arizona this last week. So overall, what we're seeing is again, there are some areas here that are really standing out on the U.S. Drought Monitor map. And unfortunately, it's been some of these same areas that have been really impacted by these longer term drought signals that we've been seeing over the last several years. And so I hate saying it, but more of the same conditions and more of the challenges for resource managers in this part of the country going forward. If we look at just the water year comparison for the U.S. Drought Monitor map, this change map is for the current water year, so going all the way back to October 1st. And you really can see how the southern portions of the Southwest were the driest through the winter and spring months. And as we go into summer, we're seeing some of that. And some of these areas you can see in those brownish areas, they had a 4-class degradation throughout this period already, and very little green in this area, meaning that's very few of these areas, and they're more of the northern areas have experienced any of improvements throughout the water year so far. And giving this perspective again, I talked about some of these longer term drought signals that we've seen. And when we start looking at the southwestern US, I've circled in the red some of these significant drought periods that we have seen. And again, looking at the Southwest as a whole, when we start seeing some of these areas and that blue line going across is the 50% line. So in many instances, we've seen where 50% or greater of this region has been in severe drought or worse. And even in some of the drought events here in the early 2020s, we can see that extreme drought was actually bypassing 50% and even approaching 70, 80% of the region. And so these challenges are nothing new, unfortunately, for this region. We've been dealing with a lot of drought. The Drought Monitor came out in the year 2000, and we can see that the vast majority of the years we have seen drought in this region compared to years that drought was not an issue. And just going to pull up the state of Arizona as an example. And a year ago, there was just under 40% of the state in drought. And right now, almost 100%, just that small, abnormally dry area in the far northeast part of the state exists still. A year ago, we didn't have any D3 or D4 on the map. And even a year ago, if you look to the left of that circle, we only had about 5% of the state in severe drought or worse. So again, a year ago, things were not too bad as far as drought conditions in the state of Arizona. And now we have 63.5% of the state in extreme drought or worse right now. And so just looking at the map in the lower left from May 7th of last year to the May 6th map of this year, you can see that there's been a lot of changes, a lot of degradation. And then that area of D4 in the far southwestern part of the state, that ironically was the one area of the state a year ago that we were seeing severe drought at this time. And so you can see how throughout this period of time, really have not seen much changes as far as in that southeast part of the state. And much of the state has become overcome with more intense drought during this period. And we go into the outlooks. So over the next 6 to 10 days, we can see that on the left-hand panel that there's a higher than normal anticipation of below normal temperatures over the next 6 to 10 days. So that takes us out through the 21st of May. The further east you go, you start seeing that gradient for increased likelihoods of above normal temperatures as you get closer to Texas and eastern New Mexico there. But for much of the Four Corners in the region, there's a pretty good signal of below normal temperatures anticipated over the next 6 to 10 days. And then on the precipitation side, it seems like, again, the further south in the region you go, there's a stronger signal of above normal chances of below normal precipitation. But then as we go further north, there is a stronger signal of seeing above normal precipitation over the next 6 to 10 days. As we go into the 8 to 14 day outlook, we see temperatures in the lower left near normal in the northern extent of the region, but a signal of above normal chances of above normal temperatures. The further south we go into much of Arizona and New Mexico. For precipitation, it looks like near normal over the next couple weeks, taking us almost to the end of May. We do see that some of California and Nevada, we start seeing a signal of above normal chances of below normal precipitation during that 8 to 14. And then for the month of May, and I highlighted here in red, all of these products from this slide forward are going to be updated on Thursday of this week. And so take them with a kind of a grain of salt. They're kind of at the end of their life cycle, and we are going to see updates on Thursday. So my hint would be look at what I'm presenting today, but maybe go check out the new products later in the week when they come out. For temperatures through May, again, equal chances to maybe a slightly above normal chance of above normal temperatures. And then we did see that big wet signal across West Texas and parts of eastern New Mexico that we've already seen some of that precipitation. But again, the further north you go in the region, the better chances of above normal precipitation that we're seeing. And then the summer outlook, again, what we see through June, July, and August, again, over much of the Southwest, we see this fairly substantial above normal chances of above normal temperatures during this period of time, especially centered over Utah, but reaching into much of the southwestern area. And then for precipitation, there has already been chatter on some of the longer term outlooks that the monsoons this year are supposed to be a little bit more active than we've seen in the past couple of years. So right now through the summer months, we're seeing this equal chances to above normal chances of above normal precipitation, especially over much of southern Arizona and southwestern New Mexico. Again, that's really going to be dependent on how active the monsoons are this year. Going into the monthly drought outlook, this was for the month of May and was updated at the beginning of May. But we are seeing that much of the Southwest region is going to see drought persisting, maybe some slight improvements in parts of central to northern Nevada and into Utah, but really persistence as far as the drought conditions go. And then the seasonal drought outlook that takes us all the way through the end of July. And again, these products are both going to be updated on Thursday of this week. Again, that persistence is still showing with some of the same improvements. And again, outside of eastern New Mexico and central Nevada, much of the region looks like it's going to remain the same. And that last little blip of abnormally dry conditions in Arizona looks like we're going to see drought develop in that area as well. So again, all the way through the end of July, and then the update on Thursday will take us through the end of August. It looks like drought is going to be fairly persistent in this region again, as we've seen quite often over the last couple decades. With that, here's my email address, bfuchs2@unl.edu. And I don't know if we're taking questions now or all of them at the end, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. We will take questions at the end. And for now, we're going to turn to Tanya to learn about the Managing Drought Risk on the ranch website.
Great. Thanks, Jackie. Can everybody see my screen? Are we good? All right. I'm going to set my timer so I don't talk too long. Oh, it's the wrong timer. Okay. I'll just talk. Thanks for having me on. My name is Tanya Haig. I work with Brian at the National Drought Mitigation Center. As Jackie said, I'm the social science coordinator. I want to follow on Brian's summary of where we're at drought-wise and share a resource specifically for ranchers. So this might be something that's useful to you. It might be useful to your neighbors, depending on where you're working. It might be useful to your clients or your coworkers. Anyone who's dealing with grassland management, basically. The NDMC's Managing Drought Risk on the Ranch website has provided guidance on ranch drought planning, monitoring, and management for 15 years now. And over the past year or so, we've actually been updating it with more relevant information, updated information, as well as making it more relevant across the Western U.S. So you're actually the first audience that we are sharing this with. We have a new website address as well, and that is ranchdrought.org. I'd like you to note that website and come back to it. It is not live right now, but it should be live by later this month. So today I'm going to give just a really brief overview of the site and what's new for the Southwest. Again, this is really organized to be a one-stop shop for ranch drought management with resources for monitoring, planning, management, relief programs, learning more. Hopefully everything, if you're in rangeland management, everything you'd need. I'm going to start with the monitoring section. We organized this a few years ago, actually, and it's organized around these questions. It's organized to help ranchers answer some common questions about their drought situation, including what is my current drought situation? And Brian talked a lot about that. How does this year compare to last year? What can I expect for forage production this year? Could I maybe still get enough precipitation to change forage production expectations? And then what are my options for drought management? And each question here takes you to a link to information to help you answer that question. Briefly, the current drought situation section displays the current drought monitor that Brian just really spent time talking about. You can also turn on layers if you perhaps like to look at what's your precipitation compared to normal. You can turn on that layer. We do have some outlooks that you can turn on as layers, as well as impacts and other reports that we would love for you to play around with. I won't spend more time on this today, but we can talk more about that. Brian brought up that comparison of this year to last year, and this is also on the Managing Drought Risk on the Ranch, very similar, pulled from the same information. We have found that comparing years really helps people think about, so what did I do in the past? What was the situation then? How might that help me inform what I should be doing with my situation now? So we wanted to make it really easy for ranchers to just go in and pull up a comparison of last year's situation to this year. So you can find that in this monitoring section. And then, of course, if you're dealing in grassland management or rangeland management or livestock production, you care about drought. But one of the things that you really care about is, what does that drought mean for my forage production? And there have been a number of great tools developed in recent years to help translate that strict drought, the drought drivers, to actually what are the implications for forage production. So when you go to this section, you're first going to see a program called GrassCast, and this provides forage production projections for the Great Plains and the Southwest. The Southwest is on the right here. We can come back. We can talk more about this. I would actually defer to Brian for a lot of this discussion. But we do pull this up as one of the primary things we share with ranchers on this site. But I also want to point you to something new down here at the bottom, another resource that we're just developing, which is a drought and forage monitoring tools library. And this is a library where you can find other forage and drought monitoring tools. Like I said, there have been a number of great tools developed that may be relevant to different situations, different locations, different questions. So here I've selected the Southwest for ranchers and current conditions, or the present. And it pulls up in the library not only GrassCast, but also FuelCast, which might be a program that some of you are familiar with. And this is a nice program that projects fuel as well as forage production for the region. So it's used in a fire management context, but it's also really helpful for forage production projections. So we're trying to provide that through this interactive library. And then also in the monitoring section, we are trying to help provide information to help ranchers answer a really common question. And that question is, what is the likelihood of me getting enough precipitation to grow the forage that I need from here on out in the year? And what that translates into often in rangeland management or lots of decision making is, do I need to take action right now? Like, could I wait maybe before making any drastic changes and see if maybe the rains do come? And so to try to help answer those questions, this section is a place where you can go, you can browse around, you can check on your own MLRA in the region. And so I've clicked on the Colorado Plateau here, and this section provides, for one thing, graphs on the average timing of precipitation and forage production for that region. So here on the right, the green bars show you monthly average precipitation, and the red, yellow, and green lines, we're going to look at the green line, is total forage production and when it is produced in that region. So you can see there's sort of this first bump in the Colorado Plateau of forage production, kind of now through June, and now is actually about the end of the precipitation time that really supports this first flush of forage production. So when we're low on precipitation now, we know we're going to miss out on some of this forage production. There is a second bump in forage production in this MLRA, and that is a little later in the year. And we have found that, it makes sense. Precipitation in July and August are what can really make a difference for this forage production. So we can be looking ahead to this, but we know this first bump of forage production is something that we're probably going to be missing out on this year. And that's something that you can explore wherever you live in the Western US using this tool. But what do we do with that information besides just fret about it? That is the question that we hope that the rest of this website can really help address. And that brings me to some other important parts of managing drought risk on the ranch. Planning, this section here, and management. So our research has found that ranchers who have a plan for drought actually manage differently than those who don't have a plan. They typically begin taking action slightly earlier during the drought. They use monitoring information to make their decisions. And we find at the end of the drought that many find that their grasses and their operations have actually come through the drought in better shape. And it's based on that we really advocate and try to provide guidance for ranchers and managers to actually develop a plan for drought. So this is an updated site. It is now relevant to managers on private lands, public lands, tribal lands. You'll find many references to the Planning for Public Lands Guide that was developed by the University of Arizona a few years back, as well as the Colorado Drought Advisors Program, which we've been involved with Colorado Extension in developing. In this section, you will find information on laying the groundwork for planning, developing resilience and contingency plans, and evaluating plans after drought. So on this site, you can find fact sheets. You can find worksheets to guide you through the process of developing a plan. And you can find some case studies, examples of ranchers who've successfully used drought plans in the past. Always looking for more examples if you have something you'd like to volunteer. And if planning for drought is something you are specifically interested in offering a workshop on how to develop this kind of plan, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help facilitate something like that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the rest, but I do want to just highlight that the site also offers this library of fact sheets, reports, studies on effective ranch drought management strategies that might be applicable to operations near you. It also provides links to drought relief programs and information. And there's also a frequently asked questions and resources section where you can learn more. So again, check back with us. I would say by the end of this month, this website should be live. You may have, we have an existing website that probably went out with the email for this webinar, and that is still live, but this is the one that we'll be transitioning to by the end of the month. So I'd love to hear your feedback on this. If you do have questions, if you have suggestions, if you have contributions, contact me at this email address, and please be in touch. I appreciate all that you all do. So I'll stop sharing and see if there's any time for questions.